Get you caught up on the latest in college football. So Oklahoma head coach Bob Stoops announced Tuesday that star defensive tackle Charles Walker will leave the program to prepare for next year's NFL draft. Now, Walker, who's expected to be a high draft pick, hasn't played since he suffered a concussion early October. The decision did not sit well with Sooners defensive coordinator Mike Stoops. Here's the quote: "Quitting on your teammates is hard to take. You can't have guys coming and going and have a group of players committed to what they're doing day in and day out, putting all the time and energy into it. It's not fair to the players that are on our team if they're not committed to the team." Max, do you have a bigger problem with Walker's decision or Stoops here?
No problem with Walker's decision. Walker made the right decision. Is this a real question? Stoops, of course. Look, I was just talking to a friend of mine who lives in England now, actually, had his job relocated him, and was telling me that in London, if you try to explain college football, American college football to people, they can't wrap their heads around it. So wait, in other words, it's professional. No, it's not professional. But they pack stadiums? Yes. Are the people paying to get into the stadiums? Yes. And it's on commercial television? Yes. And they sell products and everything? Yes. But so it's professional. No, it's amateur because they're in well, why do they have to go to college to play minor league football? Right. It's basically minor league football. You're forced. The system is set up in a way that you're essentially forced to play minor league football for free to enrich everyone but yourself. What about a college education? It's really not up to the student athlete. It's not up to the football player. They're by and large coerced. So to uphold some coerced social contract, the honor of that, Bob Stoops, who is not the head coach but makes $950,000 a year to coach that stuff, is to be the defensive coordinator, is telling one of his players on the defense, sorry, Mike Stoops, Bob Stoops, the head coach, $5.5 million for the head coach. The D coordinator, his brother, Mike Stoops, $950,000, not the head coach, the D coordinator. And one of his defensive players, who has maybe a future in professional football, whose team is not going to go to a bowl game, and who has a concussion and wants to protect himself and his professional future forever and ever, maybe set up his life, is making the only real choice to make and is criticized by the guy making almost $1 million a year to coach the amateur players who are actually putting in the real hard work. It's outrageous.
I disagree with you, and I want to make sure that you understand why. Folks out there, maybe not you, you'll never get it. But in case of Walker, I disagree with him, and here's why. You didn't quit before the season. You quit during the season. You didn't decide that you wanted to go pro and quit in the off season. You're in the throes of a season where you're now 8-2, even though he's missed the last couple of games, and then you decide that you're going to leave the team. I don't believe it was right for Stoops to say what he said. First of all, leave that to the head coach. That ain't your job as a defensive coordinator to sit up there and speak out so adamantly against a kid. You could be a bit more sensitive. So I don't agree with how outspoken Stoops was, nor do I believe that he had the right to speak on it when your brother is the head coach. He's the head of that program. He is the one that should. Bob Stoops, I want to hear Bob Stoops. I don't want to hear from his brother. Okay, you're a defensive coordinator. Stay in your place. Having said all of that,
defensive player
Charles Walker, it doesn't matter.
Maybe he's using him as his mouthpiece.
You know, he shouldn't. He shouldn't. The head coach should speak on this. But in the end, what it comes down to is that you knew the risk coming into the career that you chose. You knew the risk coming into the season, and to quit in the middle of all of this, to me, is not good.
But
hold on,
now
I'll let you speak, Max. I'll let you speak, Max. Well, if you got medical concerns, what you going to the NFL for? Because those medical concerns.
Because you get paid.
Look, let me tell you what's going to happen now. If I'm an NFL team, I don't want them. You want me to tell you why I don't want them? Because you're that concerned. You're clearly coming here just so you could get paid. After you cut the check, your signing bonus, you might get another concussion week 1, and then you quit then. I don't know about that. So my point to you is that, again, you either a player or you not. I understand health concerns. I understand the concussion issues. I understand how serious it is. But if it's serious enough, then you shouldn't be playing.
It's serious enough to jeopardize money he has not yet made.
And I'm saying,
by the way, I said bowl game. I meant playoffs.
And I'm telling you, if I'm an NFL team, I would be highly reluctant to give you the money because since you're so concerned about it now.
Because you haven't upheld the hypocrisy of the syndicate between college football and the NFL.
No, that's not why. Because if you're that concerned and that open about it, why should I take a risk on you when it's so easy for you to quit? There's a whole bunch of players on the collegiate level that get concussions, but they wouldn't dare publicize I'm going to quit college right now in the middle of the season.
You know what I would think if I was in the NFL?
Maybe he's got to risk it. He doesn't want to risk himself for his livelihood. Maybe he's got family to take care of.
Hold on.
Seems like a smart young man to me.
I'm not condemning the man's character. I'm talking about what comes with the game. There are risks that come with it.
We don't know his personal situation.
Well, then again, if you're an NFL team, I'm reluctant to take you then.
But you are paying him.
But because you're bringing those risks, those concerns to the table. I need you out there gung-ho ready to ball.
Right.
And I'm worried about you.
Football teams do ask players to make irrational decisions all the time. Sacrifice your health and your future health for the sake of a team. But in this case, you ain't getting paid. In the NFL, you're getting paid. So going in, you're making that exchange.
Quit in the middle of the season.
All right, coming up next. What does Stephen A. always say? Stay off the weed. Well, the day when NFL players don't have to follow that advice may be sooner than later, folks, according to USA Today's Jarrett Bell. Here's the quote. So voters in 7 states last week approved cannabis, either for recreational or medicinal use, and by extension, advanced the argument that the league's ban on it is like something out of the Stone Age. If the NFL wants to be progressive, it can make a strong commitment to funding some of the research being conducted to study the effects of marijuana usage. After all, in pledging to the long-term wellness of its players, benefits could improve the quality of lives. Max?
Yeah.
Is Jarrett Bell right?
You know, yes, he's absolutely right. This is absurd. And we just went through an election where there was a disinformation campaign that wound up successful. That's not okay. It's not okay that you just spread false information and that gets accepted as science in this case, and then we enact laws upon lies. There was a concerted effort to intentionally mislead people, lie to people about the effects of marijuana, which led in its continued prohibition after the prohibition of alcohol was lifted. This has been going on for the better part of 100 years now. That is the idea now that, like, for example, in the state of California, you can play for the Raiders, and it's legal. Marijuana is now recreational use, is legal as it should be in California, if alcohol is legal. And yet the NFL continues to say, we don't care. So now they can't hide behind, well, we're upholding the law. No, you're not. You're upholding your own rules. And those rules are based on the interpretation of the science. So either you're stupid enough not to understand the science when you see it, or you're willfully ignoring it and upholding a crazy, hypocritical double standard. If the standard is alcohol for the NFL, with whom they are in bed, they're in bed with alcohol companies. They peddle it during commercial breaks, okay? If they're sponsored by them, essentially. If you're in bed with the alcoholic beverage companies, you cannot also hold the position that you are testing for weed even if it's legal because it's somehow worse for you, and also say that you have a functioning brain. You cannot say all those things.
Before I get into my point, let me ask you a question, Max, do you believe that weed can make you high?
Yes.
Okay. You have seen people high off weed, have you not?
Yes.
Okay. I'm from Hollis, Queens, New York City. I'm from the streets of New York. Ain't no question I've seen people high. Hell, let me stop lying. You know what I'm saying? I got friends and family members that have no problem getting high. All right, let me...
What you're about to say is going to make me question you right now.
Well, I don't blame you for that, but I've always been a disciplined lad. Let's just say weed wasn't my vice. I had other vices, okay? Let's just leave it at that, okay? My point to you is this. Max Kellerman, the fact of the matter is this. There's a line here that I want to make sure. First of all, I want to make sure we're not talking alcohol. I get your point about that because it is hypocritical on the part of the NFL. I'm not disputing that. I also want to point out that in Jarrett Bell's great column, because he does a great job for USA Today, my man, keep doing your thing, baby. He has a line in here that says, but we're talking about medical marijuana with the key distinction that may make it plausible as a pain management alternative. It does not contain THC, the ingredient that gets a person high. So let me say, I'm excluding that. When I say stay off the weed, I am talking about dudes who want to use it for recreational purposes that don't mind showing up to work high. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about medical marijuana. I'm not talking about pain reduction and assisting in pain tolerance. I'm not talking about medicinal purposes. I'm not talking about all that, nor am I comparing it to alcohol. I'm not going there. I'm talking about the dudes who want to get high.
I like that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Here's where you make a jump here.
Wait. Here's the jump that I'm making. I am saying to you that obviously, because I know this is important to you, Mr. Scientist Spock Kellerman, I have no scientific evidence to back up what I'm about to say.
Clearly.
You can't tell me that 50% of the dudes don't want to just get high.
So what?
Because I'm saying that's a damn problem.
Why? No, because this is the jump you're making.
You want to show. Hold on.
Yeah.
You want. Let's call it.
To be in an altered state through life.
I am so sick of you with this issue. I want you to sit up here on national television and tell the world what you're saying. You're basically saying you have no problem with somebody showing up to work.
Wait, you won't let me say this point. That's my point. The jump you make is, I'm saying if it's legal in the state of California to use it recreationally, if the standard for a recreational drug is alcohol, then you must not test for weed if you don't test for alcohol. Now, you are jumping from there
I specifically said I understand that.
You are jumping from there to guys showing up to work high. You should not show up to work high. You should also not show up to work drunk. Why is it when you're okay or not okay or whatever it is your position is with alcohol, you don't bring up, hey, if guys are showing up drunk, of course you shouldn't show up drunk or high to work.
Wait a minute. I have been on the record saying I support your position about the hypocrisy of it all in terms of alcohol.
But why do you get to showing up high to work?
We're talking about the issue of weed.
Right.
So I'm saying just say, ignore. Stay with the weed.
I'll stay with
the weed.
My pleasure. If you show up to work high, you have a problem with weed. You can have a problem with prescription drugs, alcohol, weed, various vices or pain medication, etc.
But you know, Max, what's going to happen?
What?
The second you sit up there and permit, you trying to tell me brothers ain't going to be getting zooted and high, going to practice, showing up to a game on a Sunday?
The players who do.
When are you saying it's okay?
Trying to tell me that's not going to happen?
On their use for pain. Tell us, like alcohol is?
Not at work. You shouldn't be.
But that's what I'm saying.
Chemically altered in that way with a psychotropic drug at work. I mean, but how does it follow from recreational use or pain use?
Stephen A. thinks it's going to open Pandora's box.
Here's the bottom line. I don't believe for 1 second, and this is where we may part ways. I don't believe for 1 second that these brothers, and I say brothers, I'm not talking about just black men. I'm talking about black, white, everybody. Okay? Yeah. I'm saying these dudes that can't stay off the weed. These dudes are doing it now when they got millions of dollars at stake and jeopardizing their livelihood to puff and pass. Excuse me, all of a sudden it's going to be legal and now you're going to discipline yourself? I don't believe it for 1 second.
You say don't go back
way.
You say don't go back to alcohol, but it's impossible to avoid when you make that argument. Alcohol is more addictive than marijuana. But that's not up for debate. So are guys showing up drunk? I guess the answer is yes, but you have no problem with that.
2 seconds ago, you just acknowledged that we weren't going to talk about the alcohol because there's no dispute there. I'm tired of you doing that. There's no dispute. I totally
argue against alcohol.
If we had an argument about alcohol, I would say the same thing you're saying. So why do you keep bringing that up? We're talking about weed.
Because my point is there is a standard set, and that standard should be met. And if the standard is alcohol, I have to use that as the standard.
You're talking about standards and science. I'm saying I don't disagree. I'm saying on a subject of weed, do not allow dudes to show up to work.
I agree. Hey, watch. Let me just be very clear. NFL players, you shouldn't be showing up to work high or drunk or anything like that. That's a bad idea.
But according to you, they have the right to do it because it's no big deal.
We have to go.
On their own time.
I wish we had more time. You both make great arguments, but we have to move on.
When we see Max comes in and
you show up to work on something. What is this nonsense that you're spewing?
Hot tea.
Okay.
Milk and honey.
Hot tea.
Milk and honey.
That's what they should test for.
Milk and honey.
Let's keep it moving, guys.